Okay, I must start, before starting, just say a few words for the wonderful play we had. It was really amazing what you wrote and the way the actors played. And I talk in the last few months, every day I speak Soutine, I talk Soutine, I tell about Soutine. And since Soutine is a lot of got to do with stories that we know by heart and went from people to people, from friends, artists, every story teaches you something new. So this act was wonderful, and thank you very much.
Thank you.
And one more thing, my words, what I'm going to say now, I want to dedicate them to three people. One of them is my father, who taught me, actually is the first one who introduced me, Shmuel, to Soutine, my father, when I was a small child, with a small booklet. Yeah, I'll show it to you. The second one is, I'm coming from Israel, of course, so my father is back home. I'll tell you soon a little bit more about myself. The second one is Wendy Cantor, which I want to dedicate this to you. She's my friend, and she's the representative of the Friends of the Mishkan Museum of Art in Ein Harod in Israel, in America. I mean, the museum is in Israel, but Wendy represents us here. And coming here, I'm with Shmuel and with Wendy, my hosts. So to Wendy, and of course to Mr. Professor Shmuel Tatz. Now Shmuel is a real art lover, and he took upon himself to keep the live memory of Chaim Soutine. And this is not an easy thing to do. He does it with a lot of passion, but he has no choice, like he told you, because he's got this Soutine in his mind. But Shmuel, thank you very much for inviting me and for inviting all of us. Okay, so I'm actually the curator of the exhibition now showing in Israel. This is the catalog. Naked Soul, Chaim Soutine and Israeli Art. And what I would like to do, it won't be very long, but to tell you a little bit about Chaim Soutine in my eyes, in my understanding, and about this exhibition, how it came to be, and what's the meaning of this exhibition, and what it means once you show Chaim Soutine in Israel for the first time in 50 years. Okay? The last time Chaim Soutine was shown in Israel was in 1968. But to start to talk about Chaim Soutine, I would like to mention three values or three terms that helped me to try and understand who is Chaim Soutine. And the first one is the name of the exhibition, Naked Soul. What does it mean? Naked Soul. Why did we choose this term for the exhibition? Why to invent this combination? You don't really have a naked soul. You have a naked body. But naked soul means to express basically what we see in each one of the works of the paintings of Chaim Soutine. When you're naked, it means you're in the biggest state of vulnerability. English is not that well, but you're exposed, you're vulnerable, that's what it means. And it seems like Chaim Soutine's soul was all the time in this place, with anxiety, with fear, with unconfidence about many things. So that's about Naked Soul. The other one is the cry out. Now, in this wonderful play, it was already mentioned, but still I will say again shortly this story about Soutine, with his words telling to some people, and we got it from second and third hand. It's a short story, but it's crucial for us to understand who is Chaim Soutine. As a young boy going to the shochet in the shtetl, in each shtetl, the shochet is perhaps one of the most important professions. He's just a small boy. Maybe his mother sends him there. And he goes to buy meat. And as he steps inside, the shochet is just about to cut the throat of a goose or a chicken. And Soutine is terrified by that. He sees that, he steps back, and he wants to cry out, to shout because of the fear. But then he sees the face of the shochet. And the face of the shochet is full of joy, because this is what a butcher does. Chops the throat of goose, chicken, whatever. Chaim Soutine says this cry or cry out was stuck in his throat. And since then, all his life, he was trying to let it go, and he could never do it. Now, when you look at his paintings, or when you think about his paintings, or when you curate an exhibition of Chaim Soutine, one of the conclusions is that in each painting of Chaim Soutine, there is one, and here is one. It's an attempt to try and express this cry out, because everything he did since this experience was trying to express this cry out. But it's not only that. When we are talking about this expression of trying to shout or cry out, it's not only for Soutine. I understand it also as a universal cry. And if we think a little bit, we realize there were quite a few artists, not only artists, also other curators in theater and music, who try to express this feeling, wanting to cry, to shout, a big shout. Sometimes it's a silent cry. I'll mention two of them. Perhaps one is Edward Munch or Munch. Okay, I'll just read something of that Edward Munch. You say Munch in English? Munch wrote about this, about his experience. I mean, everyone we know is painting. Yeah, the cry. This is him saying, "My whole life," this is Munch, yeah, "my whole life has been spent walking by the side of a bottomless chisel, jumping from stone to stone. Sometimes I try to leave my narrow path and join the swirling mainstream of life, but I always find myself drawn back towards the chisel edge, and there I shall walk until the day I finally fall into the abysses." This is, so he writes, "For as long as I can remember, I have suffered from deep feeling of anxiety, which I have tried to express in my art. Without anxiety and illness, I should have been like a ship without a rudder." Perhaps it reminds us of Soutine. And then there is another artist. You should all know him. He's American, Barnett Newman. Barnett Newman, very important artist, abstract expressionism. 1948, Barnett Newman is painting a series of 14 paintings. It's like colorful paintings with a white with a black zip. It's like a talit, but it's called the 14 Stations of the Cross. And this series of works by Barnett Newman, it's here in New York in one of the galleries, is followed by a statement of Barnett Newman. And the statement is read like this. Listen carefully. Barnett Newman, this Jewish artist, is writing, it's part of the work, this statement. Lama shavaktani, which means, why? Why did you forsake me? Why forsake me? To what purpose? Why? This is the passion, the passion, the outcry of Jesus, not the tumble walk up the Via Dolorosa, but the question that has no answer. Lama? Why? To what purpose? Is the unanswerable question of human suffering. So we talked about the meaning of naked soul. I mentioned the meaning of this cry of Soutine, which is actually a universal cry to express this inner feeling. And the third thing, if we really want to understand Soutine, is this combination of life and death, the same moment. And this also happens in each one of his works. to my understanding. Even think of it, of this Soutine, when he sees this shochet, and he wants to cry, it's because of his fear of death, which means because of his belief in life, because of his passion to life. So, whatever Soutine is painting, be it a portrait, a landscape, a red gladiola, a dead animal, it's always trying to work with the tension between life and death. And I can assure you that each good creating man is trying to reach this point of this meeting. I can tell you one small memory I had when I was a student in Tel Aviv University. I remember once we had this pantomime, Marcel Marceau, a pantomime, very famous one. It was very old. And he came to make a show in the university. It was the Arts Academy. And he stepped on the stage. He was an old man. And he was there for 5 minutes. He started from being on the floor like a small baby, growing up into a child, a big man, an old man, an adult, a strong man, tall, and then getting smaller, smaller, like an old man, shrinking until death. Marcel Marceau, 5 minutes from life to death, expressing in one short piece this quality. So this is the top. So Soutine, with all his complexities, and I'm happy we saw this play because I don't have to explain all of his fear, anxiety, unconfident in life, in women and whatever, but in all of that, he believed in life, he loved life, he had the passion to life. His name was Chaim, Chaim Soutine, and he never denied his name. So this is very interesting to understand these tensions inside his soul. Okay, so after saying this, the cry out, the naked soul, life and death, I can go to the exhibition shortly. And while working on this exhibition, and I must tell you, again, we know who is Chaim Soutine, the artist. I mean, God touched him as a painter, not as a man. As a man, he was not very, but as a painter. But still, it wasn't shown in Israel, okay? I'm coming from Israel, for more than 50 years. And when I started to work on this exhibition in our museum in Ein Harod, which I will say a few words about this museum, people kept on asking me. I mean, it's a very modest museum, located in a kibbutz. It's a very unique place, but it's not in Jerusalem, it's not in Tel Aviv, it's not in Haifa. So people kept on asking me, why Chaim Soutine? Out of all artists, why in Ein Harod? Out of all museums, some of them are very big, very rich. We don't have much money. We don't have money at all, but we do very important things. And why now, 2019? So why Chaim Soutine we know very well, we understand. I don't have to, they haven't been shown in Israel, but we know why to show Chaim Soutine. It's a big gift to show Chaim Soutine. How to do it is a different question because it's a lot of money. And we're lucky to have a friend, Shmuel, coming to Israel with 2 paintings of Soutine in the exhibition. So Shmuel really became a friend of the museum. And like Shmuel, like Soutine touched Shmuel, I think also the Museum of Art in Ein Harod touched Shmuel. Just hearing talking about the museum. But the big question is why to show Chaim Soutine in Ein Harod, in this small, modest museum. And there's 2 main reasons. One of them is an artist and a kibbutz member. His name is Chaim Atar. Chaim Atar was born in Ukraine, in Zlotopol, coming to Israel and to kibbutz Ein Harod. Ein Harod is one of the first kibbutzim in Israel, founded in 1921. Now it's an amazing story. Once the kibbutz members decide to send Chaim Atar with his casket, kibbutz member, to study art in Paris in 1933. I mean, yeah, it's hard to imagine. This young guy wants to study art in the community, the kibbutz, sends him to Paris. Now Chaim Attar goes to Paris, he goes to the Louvre, he sees Rembrandt, Cézanne, Van Gogh. He's impressed of all of these big artists, but he sees one more artist. He's alive in those years, works in Paris. His name is Chaim Soutine. Chaim Attar never met Chaim Soutine. Actually, I must tell you, many Israeli artists also went to Paris to study art, because in Israel, the 30s, the 40s, you can't study art. It's desert. There's no art schools. So you go to Paris, the center of art, everyone is there. Picasso, Matisse, Renoir, Modigliani, until he dies. Everyone goes there. Also Chaim Attar. And Attar goes there, but he sees what is happening in Europe. And there, 1933, when he comes to the kibbutz, he understands what Shmuel said. We must have a museum for art in, it's the pre-state Israel. Okay, it's 1933. I'm making it very short. This museum is opening in 1938. It's the first museum that was opened in Israel. Not in Jerusalem, not in Tel Aviv, not in any city, in a small kibbutz in the northern part of Israel. And why did they build a museum? I mean, if I want to be romantic, I can say that perhaps Chaim Attar, this artist, and Shmuel can say about this artist, if you don't believe me, perhaps he saw the works of Chaim Soutine, and he understood what's the power, the meaning, the effect of a piece of art, only oil on canvas, on a human being, on a society, on a community. And maybe this power of painting put in the head of Chaim Attar the idea to open a museum. But it was not only that. Basically, it was his, I would say, historical responsibility of Chaim Attar and all of the kibbutz members to save Jewish art from Europe and bring it to the state of Israel. Because in Europe, those days, for Jewish people and Jewish artists, it's starting to be, how to say, not very pleasant. And they decide to build a museum basically to save Jewish art. And so 1937 and 8, Attar is going again and starting to buy art of all of the most important Jewish artists of the first part of the 20th century. Russian, Poland, German, French. With the money they don't have in the kibbutz, they collect shekel to shekel, piece to piece. They go to Europe, and it's a whole movement of the kibbutzim buying art, bringing it to Ein Harod, to the museum. So one reason to build the museum was an historical reason, to looking to the past, to the history, save culture, history, tradition, Jewish tradition through art and Judaica. The other thing was looking forward to the new generation, to the children, educating them to these values through art. Well, what I want to say basically is Chaim Attar as a painter, not as a man with the vision, the passion, the utopia to build a museum. As a painter, he was mostly affected from Chaim Soutine, because he comes and he keeps on painting, and that's one reason why to bring Soutine to Ein Harod. The other reason is because of all of his artistic, cultural, social milieu of Soutine. The Jewish artists, Kremen, Kiko, and Jacques Lifshitz, Hannah Orloff, and more, all of them are in our collection. It's like as if we're bringing Chaim Soutine back home to the museum that was built for Jewish artists. And I'm saying back home because in many ways Chaim Soutine, which was in many ways alone in this world, left his family, never saw them again, never had a family. Bringing him to Ein Harod, to Israel, to this museum, this Chaim Attar who built this museum for Jewish artists, is like bringing him home to the home he never heard of, he never knew about it. But what I want to say that this combination, Chaim Soutine in Ein Harod, this exhibition, is not like any exhibition of Chaim Soutine. In the last 2 years there was an exhibition of Soutine in Moscow, in London, here in New York, in the Jewish Museum. I was there yesterday. They all talk about the exhibition in Ein Harod, in the Jewish Museum. Next year there's going to be an exhibition in the Orangerie, Chaim Soutine and William de Koning. But Chaim Soutine in Ein Harod is something different. And that's only the beginning, because we all know the influence of Chaim Soutine on American art after the war, on European art, Francis Bacon, Lucian Freud, you name it. William de Kooning, Jackson Pollock, Mark Rothko, the abstract painter, is talking about Soutine that influenced him. I start to work on this exhibition in Ein Harod because of the reasons I told you about. And as I start working on it, I realized the unbelievable influence of our friend Chaim Soutine on Israeli art. Not only on Chaim Atar, Israeli art from the 30s until today, 2020. And as I make research, I discover another artist and another artist. 3 generations of Israeli artists, 30s, 40s, 50s, 60s, 80s, that was influenced from Chaim Soutine. This is the uniqueness of this exhibition we have in Ein Harod. In this catalog you will find, if you can look at it, we have a few of them here, you will find 43 artists. You will find quotes from these artists. And how did I choose those artists? I mean, still it was like a big research. So there were 3 categories how to choose the artists in the exhibition. One of them is simply artists who painted subjects after Soutine, like Soutine. I mean, didn't copy him, but got this, they were looking at Soutine as an inspiration, okay? Portraits, landscapes, still life like gladiolas, and dead animals, like a slaughtered chicken, slaughtered ox, in the landscape or wherever. The other category was the way these Israeli artists use color, the material of color, the expressionism of color in their painting. But the third category, which goes through all of them, is what I call the use of the Soutine quality. And what is the Soutine quality? What I tried, perhaps not so good in my English, but if I could talk in Hebrew, I could express it much better. These 3 values, this naked soul. How can I explain the meaning of a naked soul? The fragility, the anxiety, the fear. This cry out, this universal cry out of this artist in his art. What does it mean when an artist wants to destroy his art? It's never good enough. It can never express what he really feels inside, not what he wants to show. When he was painting a portrait, you don't see what he saw. You see what he felt. But these portraits are always like how they look. And this combination of life and death. So this is the quality I was looking in each one of the works in the Israeli art. Now I thought I would quote some of the artists from the 30s, from the 80s, some of the young Israeli artists born in Israel, studied in Israel, work in Israel today, in the 30s or 40s, and they look at Soutine. It's even more interesting because when I mentioned, perhaps now for the 3rd time, that Soutine was not shown in Israel for 50 years, it means that museum directors, curators, professionals didn't find Soutine important enough perhaps, or I don't know what, to show him in Israel. But artists, they always saw him. Not like they didn't need the curator, the museum director to bring him. Artists always have this sensibility. If they really look for this thing you can't express otherwise. So it's amazing to see that even that Soutine was not shown in Israel, artists always find a way to see him. So maybe I'll mention just in this situation, it's a bit problematic. I told Shmuel I would like to show a presentation on the wall and show you the works and talk about each work. It's much more easy. Or take you to a tour in the exhibition, which are all welcome. It's a wonderful exhibition. Thousands are coming. In 2 days I'm in the MoMA because they heard of the exhibition and they want to talk to me about it. And it even might come to New York, you never know, because there's some interest. I mean, not the Soutine part, but the Israeli artists. And it only opened 2 months ago. Well, I opened just in the work. You see, I didn't even... I want to show you one work, okay? One work. Again, you can see it after I'm almost done. This work, it's a very small work. Painting. It's a painting on the size of 30 by 30, this size. Shmuel, you saw the work, right? In El-Kharod.
Yeah.
It's a painting done by a very known, very important Israeli painter who passed away 1 year ago. His name is Yosel Bergner. Yosel Bergner used to paint Judaica thing and the Holocaust issues, refugees and so on, and by that he was never really accepted in the Israeli art scene, because in Israel, in the first years, no one wants to deal with refugees, with death, with Holocaust. It's a new place, a new country, a new Jew, and it's all the faces forward to the new country. No one wants to look back. So artists to deal with like Holocaust things, they can't make it into the Israeli scene. This is a painting from 1950. What do we see in this painting of Yosel Bergner, this very important artist? It's very simple. We see a slaughtered ox painted in red blood, which represents like it's a dead animal. The red is the red of blood, the red of death. But next to this slaughtered ox, we see a watermelon. Open watermelon, like with the red of the watermelon. A watermelon, I must tell you, it's one of the very known symbols of Israel, of the new country. It's a watermelon. This hot country in the summer, you cut a watermelon and you eat it, and it's sweet and watery. So Yosel Bergner puts a slaughtered ox, red blood, dead, next to this watermelon, which represents the red of the life. And the slaughtered ox in many ways represents the past, or the Jew. And the watermelon represents the now, or the future, or the Israeli. So in this small painting, you got life and death, Israeli and Jew, there and here, past and future, and all this search of an Israeli for a Jew and an Israeli for his identity. It's always this question of, am I an Israeli? Am I a Jew? I mean, for people who come to Israel or stay in New York or in America, looking for this identity. In all of this complex, I'm saying again, life and death, Jewish and Israeli, past and future, there and here, it's in one small painting. And what is the title of this painting? Tribute to Chaim Soutine. So I thought instead of telling you many stories, to finish with just telling about one work, one small work from 1950, and all of this life and big questions of Yosel Bergner is dedicated to this artist, Chaim Soutine, who never thought about Israel, who never had any emotions to Israel, never thought of coming to Israel. It's a whole big story about Soutine's Jewishness, this artist who never painted a Jewish shtetl or a rabbi with red beard. But people say that in his cry out, he expressed more than any other Jewish artist, be it Chagall, whatever, the Jewish soul, the Jewish tragedy. Can you think of it? A Jewish artist never painted one Jewish painting, but without doing this, expressed perhaps more than all the others. I mean, it's not me saying it, it's a very important Israeli art critic in the 40s. So this is Soutine. And one last thing before Shmuel invites us to have a glass of wine. Just to tell you this, so this exhibition is unique for that. I mean, until yesterday, until 2 months ago, we didn't know at all the effect of Soutine on Israeli art. So this exhibition has got two sides, two faces. One face is facing Israeli art. And since I'm a museum director, I can tell you that for too many years, we didn't have in Israel an exhibition about Israeli art, which means trying to trace or to say something about the Israeli society, reality, mentality, whatever, through art. I mean, every culture, American, German, English, French, every once in a while they do a big exhibition to show like French art, American art. What is American art? In Israel, we didn't have it for a long time. This is the exhibition. Through Soutine. How surprising. But at the same time, this exhibition in Ein Harod is very important for Chaim Soutine. For all of his collectors, schulers, museum directors. We have Soutine in the Metropolitan, in the MoMA, in the Pompidou, in the Orangerie, in the Stedelijk. Because this exhibition is saying something new about Soutine also. None of us knew that he influenced a whole panorama of cultural, historical society which is being built in the state of Israel, in the land of Israel. So perhaps with this I will finish.
Yes.
And Shmuel.
Yes, I'm here.
You're
Selling
here.
the books.
I want to say a compliment to Shmuel, okay?
Again.
When I started to work in the exhibition 2 years ago, I had no idea there is a Shmuel Tatz, Ben Chaim Tatz, and I had no idea about the Soutiniania. But since I met Shmuel, he's a very big inspiration, and I want to thank him for that.
Thank you. I pushed few people to buy this, but still left 4.
Only 4?
Only left 4. I worked hard. And if you want, even Yaniv can sign. Yaniv is the curator of the exhibition, and he built an article in English and in Hebrew.
Seriously, I know.